Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to talk about my weight loss journey. Losing actually 80 pounds, but like really, in all honesty, to the current second this recording, more than likely 70 pounds. Because I got on from being 300 and 305 pounds, roughly, because maybe I farted that day, maybe I had a burger, maybe I had a whatever, and then really I didn't consistently look at the scale every single moment of my life. But eventually I had gone to losing all the way to get me to 216 pounds. But then injuries started to occur. Things like me not being able to bend and straighten this arm, and eventually my knees were really just having a lot of problems, just consistently going to the point where every time I would exercise, I would either need knee braces or I would just not be able to legitimately be able to walk after going through all these exercises, because eventually you just kind of keep building to a point of just at some point you're either going to break or you're just going to keep on gaining, and that eventually is the journey here. So you would gain muscle and at some point lose fat, and then there's also to be things like depression, which you are to start to lose while also losing weight, because you are to feel this kind of more euphoria, or you are to actually finally for once look at yourself in the mirror or look at yourself in a photo and just being like, wow, like I actually like how my pecs to stomach have that little indent there, little gap there, little there, and I like how my stomach doesn't really feel like it's kind of protruding from my shirt. Wow, that's great. And so on and so forth, because I had those problems. I had those issues. And I have probably body dysmorphia to where really legitimately where I'm currently probably at now is probably not good enough for me. I want to go on and lose more weight. I want to get to losing 100 pounds altogether at some point. And so depression eventually, besides its utter need to not want you to progress at all in your life, because you probably haven't actually progressed in your life whatsoever, and also getting to a point where there are a certain number of collective things that are accumulate in your brain to finally just make you say like, okay, like I've had enough at this point. Because it would just be an accumulation of simple things that like you go to the doctor, and a doctor would go on and see from your last visit that you weighed 190 pounds, but then all of a sudden now you weigh like 260 pounds. Like, how could that have happened? The last time that I'd seen you, doctor, was like 10 years ago. Oh, well, yeah, but you gained weight from but so what? So freaking what? It would be to the point where I would just consistently start to kind of one way or the other hear that kind of stuff from a normal doctor. And it would just make me want to go not to the doctor at all anymore. Because most of the time I'd go to the doctor anyways, and they would probably just say like, oh yeah, just put some ice on it and you're good. Or you have some virus thing and just sit it out. Great. So I'm never going to go to you again until years later. Even if I've broken my arm, like I'm still not going to go to you right away. Because why would I? So, to the point of legitimately a month after, like having my arm not straighten or bend, I finally went to a doctor and they x-rayed it and they're like, yeah, it must just kind of be some thing that you just kind of have to heal from. So, like, it's just not obviously 100%. Maybe you should go to rehab. And I'm like, no. rehabbing would just make me rationally just assume to just exercise anyways, which I'm not doing. So why would I go on and go into rehab, which I can just exercise and just work it out anyways? Just figure out how to stretch my arm more through looking at YouTube videos and whatever, and just have this go away at home instead of going to a rehab facility and doing it that way. Even though it may not ever heal perfectly or in time perfectly, whatever. But so going on. So beyond just going to the doctor, I would just go through social medias and YouTube videos, and at some point, somebody somewhere would just have that fat thing to just say to me. So I would go and turn to just be like, well, you know what? I want to go on and have that be the one thing that a person cannot go on and tell me that I am. So I'm going to lose weight and be able to get healthy. So they don't say that right away. They can't say it right away. They have to come up with something else to treat me like garbage because I don't have something, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not this, or I should have scripted videos, or should do this or that. I should have better equipment. All of these other things. But at least they're not going to call me fat. That's great. I love that. Let's go do a bit. You know? Let's change this up. Let's be a better person. So, we'd come across going into a mirror and feeling better about ourselves, looking in the mirror and realizing, I like that pec dip, the little indent between the pec and the stomach. Oh man, that's golden. Oh man, I kind of like how like my head is just kind of thin in pictures compared to where it was, where it's just a little bit more, a little bit in the cheeks. You know what I'm saying? A little bit more, and then somewhere. But anyways, let's go on and let's talk about the dieting, the real true process of it all, beyond my mental health and my depression and among other things. Not always having a weight problem. Eventually, this is to be a slow build of years of happening. Because I'd never really gone on and been a fat kid. I was to, of course, been this bean Polish like kid that eventually went into doing these jobs that eventually got me to be very stressed out, to where I would stress eat. And funny thing enough, I would say that I'd stress eat, but then also I really a lot of times probably wouldn't eat enough, but still would just be stress eating. There'd be one point I remember that I would go on and go to a gas station or whatever is nearby my work and just pick up a lot of food. Didn't matter what it was just picking up a lot of probably junk, like donuts and just things that I could try to figure out could be some kind of a meal to my progression of making my way to work, which of course I would usually walk to and from. And so, because exercise is a thing, hence why I've always kind of been a person to have been able to be physically fit, even though legitimately on the scale it would not have said so. Because I would also have at some point taken 10 years to exercise and bench 315 pounds, but I also weighed 300. So I could bench the bench thing, exercising, banging and clanging, 315 pounds, but that is to not have been ever the most I'd ever moved as far as weight is concerned. Eventually, I even have a photo of this. Deadlifting. If you know what a deadlift is, probably should look into it. It's pretty easy. But anyways, or maybe to some people it's not easy. I don't know. I don't really. Whatever your thing is, if you're to be an expert at weightlifting, or you're to be a novice, you don't know a lick of anything about it, comment in the things below. We can exchange information exchange tips, exchange whatever to maybe get you going on this whole journey, or eventually have you be the master of it all and you're coming to me with all of your knowledge and all of your experience and whatever. And I'm just going to pick your brain and whatever. And because the stuff that worked for me didn't work for everybody. So it is what it is. So this is to be me deadlifting 376 pounds. This wasn't yesterday. Of course, you can go in to see, obviously, by the hair up there that and the hair that I have here, it's not the same. So I didn't do this yesterday, but I did this someday. And look at the Ronald McDonald or that it's to be right here. The yellow and red, just styling and profiling because I didn't really care. Because I'm like, you know what? I'm working out. Like, I don't care how goofy I look. F all that noise. And this is the plates, so you can kind of see it at a somewhat closer up angle that I did a lot of them. Look at that almost bald head upon his head. How dare you? But if anyways, 376 pounds was to have legitimately been the heaviest I had gone on to weightlift ever in my life. Besides me saying that I achieved other life goals of lifting a 300-pound table saw, a 600-pound billiard pool table, however much a cardboard bale weighs, because who knows how absurdly much that those weighed, and I would have to do every single one of those things I just mentioned from table saw up to, of course, do every single one of them solo by myself because of the people of which that I'd either worked with or having no ability to have a person work alongside me, so I was forced to do all these things by myself. Man, did I not get paid for that those tasks, but I probably should have. I should have been getting twice as much. Well, not twice. I probably should have gotten more money than I was actually getting paid. But then again, everybody is to probably feel that way. If you're to make a job where you're making $2 million a year, you would probably want to make $200 or $2 million and $1 a year, just because it's more money. But anyways, but it got to a point for me where I stopped caring about money, stopped caring about a job, stopped caring about everything, and just kind of focused on the littlest things of humanly possible. But anyways, that's my life. So I've had a lifetime experience of working out before even getting to this point of losing 70 pounds, technically 80, but who is to really care? I had gone on to diet and exercise. Of course, the first stop of this was forcibly being done because I had some wisdom teeth problems. At some point, I would go on to state that I've had jaw problems for I don't know how long. Opening and closing this mouth here isn't to, of course, always been the easy task, but I do so when I have to talk. Godzilla. So, legitimately, at some point in my life, I started to feel some pain in the back of my thing called teeth. And I would just kind of always hold off on getting this surgery to get the wisdom teeth removed, but I know I was getting some pain all up in there. And so eventually it just got to the point where the pain was all too great, where I started to get really sick and could not really eat anything, to the point where I almost wanted to just stop eating whatsoever, just because the pain was getting too great. So I was forced into getting my wisdom teeth removed, and it took me a month to be able to do so. Because when you kind of schedule these things, they don't get to it right away. They're just like, no, like, we only have this doctor at this time, so yeah, you're going to have to wait. So I'm like, okay. A lot of people may have gone on and had to have waited a lot longer than I had. But I had gone through a lot of sources to try to figure out what was the quickest way to get this done, because it freaking hurt like a mother. But again, the laziness of me. I'm all lazy. Yeah, I'm lazy, everybody. But so, because I'd eventually like hurt my arm and couldn't straighten it or bend it, or my knees, I would toss on some knee braces because I couldn't really walk all that well after my workouts. But I'm lazy. Hence why me having to stop uh, losing 80 pounds to go to only lose 70 pounds simply because of some injuries that just accumulated. But so, and people calling me fat. You lost 250 pounds? You lost 50 pounds? Still, no. None of that business. Anyways, so we'd have me then start to only have yogurts or puddings for about 2 months. To have gone in, waited for this appointment to happen. It happened. Then the recovery of that took a month. So I lost about 30 pounds just from yogurts and puddings alone. So if you want to go on and not work out whatsoever, not suggesting this at all, just go on and just have a liquid diet. At some point, you'll probably lose weight, or maybe you won't, and then you'll decide that you need to actually work out. But then that is actually a crazy way of just going to an extreme diet, I feel, because here's where I really legitimately went into legitimately working out the right way and doing everything the right way. So, because I'm not suggesting this, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a weight trainer, I'm not a whatever, I'm not a professional athlete, I'm not anything besides a common man to anybody. But here's where I went through to get all of this stuff done. So, after my wisdom teeth had gone on to be a thing that wasn't a huge pain in my life, I had started to eventually just kind of just eat normally. But then one video was to have me kind of really look at what I was eating, because I would go through one video and one person had stated, it's like, well, you know what? Like, I started to really look at how much I ate in one day and realized that I snacked a lot. And that made me really think. That made me really go on and like kind of look at my day and see how much I actually ate for one day. And I started to realize too that I would snack a lot also. Like, I would have 2 meals on the regular, but then eventually I would just kind of snack throughout the day. And that should probably be the way everybody should always eat and whatever, and I don't really care. But so anyways, or a lot of people would say breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I would just be like, you don't really need breakfast. Dr. Oz would even go on and tell you don't need breakfast. A number of people would also tell you that you don't need 3 meals a day. It doesn't make sense unless you are a power lifter, strongest man in the world. Then maybe you probably need 7 meals a day. I don't really know or care because I'm not in that weight scale anymore. I'm not in that process of achieving any of those goals. So what do I know? And so I went to realize that I was to cut out snacks, and I started to really just see that I was to stick with just 2 meals and nothing else, no snacking. So eventually I started to like do certain workouts, which were just kind of like these 30-day challenges here and there. They were all a lot of nothing or fluff, but it was just to get me ready to transitioning back into actually working out because I had a history of doing so. So already set up, I had weights, I had equipment. Some people may just want to go on and go into a gym, and by all means do so if you do not have any equipment or you don't have a location that is to have you obtain equipment, then go on and go to a gym. Bang and clang in there. Just do everything all on your own, or really at some point just make a friend and just be like, hey man, like, can you help me out with one of these? Can you spot me? And then build a rapport with people, and then maybe all of a sudden you make friends and then lovers, and mothers. I don't know. Anyways, mother lovers. Anyways, pushing on. So we will then have me start to do like 30-day challenges that I'd kind of seen from like Eddie Halls and all these other kind of fitness influencers that eventually will start to more realize that these 30-day challenges, like, there wasn't as many as there should be for these people that are to consistently try and lose like weight and gain muscle and whatever. But probably because it was too time consuming for a lot of them. But then also like the 30-day challenges just became like, oh hey, like I woke up at 5 in the morning for a month. Like that's not really a fitness challenge. Like I farted for a month. Oh, okay, that's not really a fitness challenge. So so eventually I started to just kind of do push-ups, sit-ups, and then eventually I started to really actually incorporate the stuff that I started with when I started working out in the very beginnings, before I had weights and barbells and pull-up things and certain machines and equipment of which that probably I honestly should at some point get more weight to consistently be better at, but I don't have that ability. I'm too poor. Because at some point, like at maxing out, almost pretty close to like getting close to 400 pounds and not being able to have much ability to put any more weight on my barbell is kind of getting to the point where I'm like, well, like where can I go from here? Because I only have so many plates that I have within me. And plus, also, I'm not quite sure if my barbell can hold this kind of weight. Yeah. Um, but, anyways, speaking of which, where should anybody go and get equipment if you want to start getting equipment at your home instead of just going to the gym? Or what equipment should you go into the gym and use? Where should you start? Eventually you're going to have to really experiment of what is to be the thing that you like the most and consistently will do, and do that. Because what I'm going to say here is probably going to be a lot of stuff that may not work for you or is not going to be the body part that you're going to try and shape. Because I'm probably going to say like, well, hey, I mostly work out full body stuff, and you're just like, oh, well, like I don't want to do full body. Like I just want to work on my arms. I just want to work on my glutes. I just want to work on my ribos or whatever muscle. Eventually, I'm going to goofily say here. Just work on the bicep curls. Just do that. Just nah. Just do a lot of these. Break your arm. Just nah. Ow, my freaking arm. Anyways, didn't hurt that much, but so dieting. Let's go into all this. So I only dieted 2 meals a day, and then started to do these workout things, and then transitioned to do like, okay, like I started to have these like really resistant bands, and I started to do those as just kind of bicep curls and forearm curls, and eventually got into like taking my 50-pound weight plate and like just kind of started to just kind of work on my grip strength, my wrist strength, because really like in all honesty, I swear by grip strength. I swear up and down by it that like if you don't have grip strength, you're probably not going to eventually get strong. You're not going to get swole, I feel. And also I look at like mountain climbers or rock climbers, and they all have grip strength. And so that's all I ever wanted to really work on, and then eventually get into other things. I never went on, and besides benching 315 pounds, like I never really wanted to ever really bench ever really in my life. So I try to do other things, like eventually adjust into certain things that'll still work on those same body things, but not be a bench. So, but I'll get to that. So I started to do these just 30-day challenges to just kind of get to a point where I can build up my body to get into real legitimate weights. Like there'd be 30 days of uh, farmers carries, and there'd be 30 days of crawling, which sounds stupid to a lot of people, and also was a really hard workout to have done. But I did that for 30 days. I did uh like hit cardio for 30 days, just gonna see how that did, and man, was that a workout. For me, it was like a 30-minute thing, and I would just be like, man, like these burpees freaking suck. But everything else seemed to be like a thing that I just did, so I was like, wow. um like it's really just experimenting and just seeing what eventually you'll incorporate later on in your real legitimate, like, consistent workouts, of which that I had gone on and done. I did a elliptical slash walking up my stairs for 30 days. Yada yada. So like eventually I took all of this stuff and just kind of combined it together into eventually what was to be one workout per every day, to then just kind of doing these two separate days of these two seemingly separate workouts, but then also a lot of it was kind of either on certain days full body stuff, so it wasn't like I was completely like not working on the upper body, or if I was to have seemingly thought I'd focus on the upper body, I'd also do some leg exercises, but then I would have a whole full day of just cardio uh, besides just kind of the working out day. But anyways, so dieting. I'm sure you want me to get back into that. So I would go on to do all these exercises, and I'll get back to the specifics of hopefully some of those. And so you get to a point where you realize that even eating food is kind of an addiction, a thing that you honestly have to do, but a thing that you can eventually slow down of how much you actually do eat on a regular day. You can go on from having just 2 meals a day to eventually going on and having like a meal and a half a day, to then just having one meal, and eventually that one meal like will be the thing you'll kind of consistently hang on to for the longest, and go through a lot of these more strenuous workouts, till then you have to realize that you're not getting anywhere, and then you're like, okay, what can I do past the one meal a day? And you start to realize you can go on and incorporate fasting, which I had gone on to fast for one day a couple of times. Then I decided to fast for 2 days once. And really, like, there was never a thought in my brain of having problems with, like, man, I have to eat during any of those times. Like, I just kind of shut my brain off, because I tend to just shut my brain off. And also, like, I wasn't, like, ever thinking about, like, hey, when should I eat? No, like, I never, like, when I told myself I wasn't eating that day, the thought wouldn't have come in my mind whatsoever. And I think the very first ever time that I fasted for an entire day, like when the day was finally done and I woke up the next morning, like I was just like, okay, I need a meal. Like I feel like, but after that first initial time of fasting for one day, like once I got past that, like it wasn't that hard to eventually fast later on. But so fasting meaning not eating for an entire day. But again, like this is all coming from like having to really strenuously like work out to a point of like, okay, I'm not losing weight. Where can I go from here? And then I just looked into fasting, and it seems that you can also fast for an entire 7 days, but then also your body needs salt within it. So like if at some point, if you're fasting for a whole entire day, or you're fasting for 2 days and you're realizing that you're starting to get really sick, more than likely you just need sodium in your system. Regardless of legitimately, like, you don't want to, like, eat or whatever, anything. Still, like, you need that sodium still in your body. So there's a whole video about a guy who had fasted for 7 days and had realized he started needing that sodium eventually. But so, because I've been looking all this up, I've been looking into everything to just kind of see, like, where can I go at some point to get the results that I want, the results that I need, and the results that eventually I will get into, I would hope. So, completely. Because eventually I just want to be a very athletic person or just be very healthy, is what I'm really into. And to have just been experience of all of this workout equipment and so on and so forth. So, eventually, in all honesty, what you really all just need as far as equipment is to go, if you're thinking about building a gym thing in your home rather than going to a gym, or some people may just go on and just be curious of what I am to go on and recommend. So, I feel that I want to go on, and I don't have one, but I would love one, a rowing machine. I've never tried one of those, but I want to, because I feel that those are really good. But I don't have one of those, but eventually I want one. I do. But elliptical or Stairmaster, or just legitimately these things called stairs. If you know a location where a place has a bunch of stairs, walk up and down them every day. You look like a goofus, retard, whatever, and everyone's going to laugh at you, but you're going to be like, hey man, like, I'm losing weight. F off. And maybe they'll leave you alone. But also you're just going to look goofy and stupid and whatever, but hey, you're going to be X number of pounds probably lighter. So, because luckily I have 2 flights of stairs in my own home, so I'm just like, okay, like, I'm going to go and do that for an hour and lose weight, because that's what I'm going to do. And eventually I combined the hour of doing an elliptical and an hour of going up and down the stairs. I combined them together, and man, is that a good just chef's kiss. Frickin', you can lose a pretty decent amount of weight, but then also it's just a good combination. I liked the elliptical, but the elliptical broke at one point, so I just transitioned to a treadmill. Now I'm on a treadmill for an hour, and I'm on the stairs for an hour. Just cardio and great. But anyways, I wouldn't recommend for everyone doing it because it doesn't work for everybody. Some people can go on and not have this kind of time of which that I have, and it is what it is. So you just got to figure out how you can fit that fitness in there, or eventually just go on a diet to not have to go on and work out so much. So through maybe you're going to try fasting, but again, it's an addiction that you slowly have to get to fasting. You can't just go from eating 3 meals a day or 2 meals a day to eating nothing for 7 days. That doesn't work. Believe me, I've had to slowly peel away from this. So the equipment of which that I would recommend would probably just be simply, for starters, would probably just be an elliptical stairs or a Stairmaster. Greg Doucette will also recommend a bunch of other stuff. Check out a lot of his videos because he knows what he's talking about, because he has a couple million subs at this point. And also, like, a lot of these fitness influencers do have videos that go on and just talk about the best equipment, or eventually you just go on and watch a lot of fitness YouTuber videos that eventually will have these random equipment that are to be within it, and you're just like, oh man, but how can I do that for me? Like, I don't have a I don't have a pull-up bar, so how can I go on and work up my upper body? I'll just do barbell rows because I have the barbell and I have weights. I'll just do that. And I do have a pull-up bar, but I'm just saying for examples. I have a pull-up bar. I have uh, a treadmill. I have a bike, which I don't do because I don't like bikes. And also, bikes aren't that great, anyways. Um, I have a barbell and weights, and really, like, that's all you really need. A barbell and weights is legitimately the only thing that you need. You could eventually get like dumbbells, but really, like, at some point you're just gonna go right back into a barbell because they're kind of forced. Because at some point you're gonna realize that you're gonna be able to lift more weight on a barbell than you are going to be able to lift on a dumbbell, and get more sweet gains. Sweet gains. But so yeah, so an elliptical, maybe a stairmaster, unless you don't have stairs at all at the existence of which you live, and maybe try mountain climbing or rock climbing. If you can find a place that has that, maybe you have bizarrely a cliff of which that you can climb upon, which I wouldn't recommend that because you can hurt yourself. But I feel like I'm recommending something that could probably get somebody hurt. My bad. Uh, climb on a dirt hill. Whatever is safe for you to do, go ahead and just do that as long as it's safe. But so, anyways, um, so yeah, so try and not only work a lot of stuff that is to be full body stuff, but then it's to also be uh, legs and arms, and eventually you could probably incorporate working on your abs, but like I would just say like lose the weight by cardio and whatever. Don't ever really get into abs until you are really, really thin. To where you're the thinnest that you can probably think that you can get to. And then start maybe working on your abs. But then again, I don't like I do modified candlesticks to work on my abs, but it's not a huge thing. But also modified candlesticks is like the hardest ab work ab exercise you can go on and do. Um, I kind of roll in that every once in a while. I don't go on and do it because like what am I to work on abs for? Like I'm not. I don't feel thin enough. Uh, Even though I'm at 230, I don't feel like I'm thin enough to do workouts. I would need to be at 200 or lower to even think about even doing ab exercises because F all that noise. I just want to be skinny and eventually, like, all the women care about are the six pack abs. Probably. But, anyways, so why would I have said an elliptical, Stairmaster, rowing machine? I want that so bad. At some point, I want to go in actually fully to just boxing. That would be fun. Eventually, I hope to get some more boxing equipment in my future. But right now, I'm just kind of only taking like these 10 pounds, and shadow boxing is kind of what I've been doing at certain points, kind of punching that in. Joke intended. But yeah, there's just a lot of combination of stuff that I'm really forcing through my body to get through to have lost this weight, to have gone on to do these things. It's not easy. It's not just, oh, you're going to get on a treadmill and lose 40 pounds. It doesn't work that way unless you're doing it for 3 hours, which I had gone on and done at one point. I had seriously went on and just went on a treadmill for 3 hours just to see what would happen afterwards, to test and experiment and see what happened. And afterwards, I just probably realized that I just got very tired. Like, man, I've been doing this for 3 hours. Ugh. But I just wanted to experiment just to see, like, if I'd gone onto a treadmill for 3 hours, like how eventually me doing that for the very first time would then have me turn around and in the later parts of me consistently doing the treadmill start to be able to progress a lot easier because I had 3 hours on a prior day to eventually kind of adjust and get familiar with the treadmill. And so that's kind of, I think, to me, where I had gone on to really legitimately learn, where I had gone on to legitimately realize like how well I could eventually do in the future by just kind of experimenting early on. And also realizing that I had gone on to a certain um, thing in the past and I either wanted to do better or I really wanted to go on and just kind of test the waters a little bit more of all the other YouTube exercises that could exist out in the world. Because eventually I'd gone on to also work on um, uh, the traps at some point, also like working on the traps beyond just. I'm holding on my arm here. Um, but yeah, so also I can like work on my traps to kind of like make this kind of pop out a little bit more. But anyways, so the normal workouts eventually, like at first I just kind of started one day to just kind of do the same kind of exercises over and over and kind of started to realize how much like a waste of a time that probably was, but then I started to alternate. So the very first time I started to exercise, the things that I started to incorporate was to at first like every day just start to do pull-ups and do 5 more than the day prior, and I started to do uh, also some just kind of bizarrish workouts as well. I started like suitcase deadlifts, which is kind of just lifting a barbell with one arm, and I got to a pretty decent amount of like lifting with that, and I think that also kind of helped me later on eventually become very strong. Um, and so I just kind of tested that out. I also just kind of did a lot of weird, bizarrish exercises at some point on certain days, like circus exercises and um, just a lot of just common stuff that I'd gone on to see in like strongman stuff or other just kind of other videos to just kind of fill in certain things. Like eventually doing like kind of goblet, like squat like things at some point um, to kind of work on the traps and whatever. But so uh, the reason for seeing ellipticals and Stairmaster uh, barbell mostly is I would kind of go on and I would for an hour do an elliptical. And on alternating days, I'll go from an hour on elliptical to going an hour on walking up and down the stairs. And then at some point, I'd even go on and combine them two on one day to do an hour on the stairs and an hour on elliptical uh, per one day. Best combination of just melting away the pounds. But so the normal workout day would be pull-ups. Eventually, I would incorporate barbell rows, the bent over barbell row, um, going on and doing deadlifts, which eventually got me to 376 pounds for one rep, and the most I'd ever gone on and lifted, and whichever. Uh, those are the actual plates and whatever. If I hadn't gone on and already showed these pictures, anyways. I don't really know at this point. I've said so much stuff. With my Ronald McDonald get up. But yeah, so eventually I had gotten to barbell rows or bent over barbell rows. Uh, eventually going into pull-ups consistently, um, doing trying to figure out what squat to do. Because I'm like, you know what, I need to do some kind of a squat. So how am I going to achieve that with just a barbell and weights? And then I realized that I could kind of do like a kind of modified uh, T-bar squat, but like really just the bar is really just like a weight plate that has like a handle on it, and I can kind of lift it up and just kind of squat that way. So eventually it was still a squat, but hey, it was like kind of like a modified goofy thing that I started to do. That I eventually got to 290 pounds of squatting, but then like there was nothing else left on the there was nothing else left on the barbell for me to put more weight on because I got into a max point at some point. But that took months to accomplish. So eventually I'd gotten to incorporate uh, trying to think it. Dips as well as pull-ups. Because eventually you got to work on your triceps, and there's very honestly few amounts of real machines besides a real machine to be able to go and do that. To build up your triceps, like I had gone in to just kind of do like squats on a or kind of like a up and downs on a chair, kind of holding the back of the chair, and just kind of going up and down, and that was like the start of me building up triceps. But then eventually I just decided like, okay, like how about I just kind of have this machine that helps me just kind of with my body weight just kind of do dips. So eventually the more and more I just started to like incorporate these kind of random like exercises like farmers carries was eventual thing that I tried for like 30 days, but then eventually I started to do farmers carries consistently just to kind of just see how I can work them in. And that was to, of course, work my full entire body. Um, so eventually it started to really start to just separate things. And so when I really just started to separate them, like there'd be a whole entire day where I do like bicep curls, forearm curls, pull ups, dips, um, bent over barbell rows, and I would do alternating like some box jumps, which were really just like me jumping on a chair for a number of times, and also I would because it kind of works certain body parts, and it's kind of just a fun maneuver to do. Um, and then alternatively, I would do leg curls, which is just kind of me on this machine that would kind of just go up and down. Um, at some point, I would just kind of also kind of randomly add like whatever I was to look on a YouTube video and just kind of try like Zerker squats, but then eventually realizing that I could just do T-bar squats and those good enough. Um, eventually just kind of randomly just trying these exercises and realizing like how much I couldn't really go on and fully do them, or really also realizing that like uh, I could hurt myself while doing them, so I just stopped doing it all together. But eventually, the cardio stuff just started to come into play where like instead of just going on and doing um, an elliptical for an hour and going up and down my stairs for an hour, like I started to do one day where I took 10-pound weights and just shadow boxed for 30 minutes and turned around and crawled for 30 minutes. And like that really like got my blood flowing and really got me freaking exhausted, really got me tired, and realized that those were like the worst exercises to ever go on and do. but then I just kept incorporating them more to realize how challenging they still were. But like I kept just doing them at some point, hoping that eventually I would just get better at them. So eventually we would go on to just be eating one meal a day. And so we're doing these two exercises. So cardio would on the regular day be would be regularly doing treadmill for an hour because eventually my elliptical just broke. So treadmill, stairs for an hour, then doing shadow boxing for 30 minutes, and uh, and uh, farmers carries. Farmers carries. Those would be very much regularly. I would get to probably either a certain number of steps and be at a certain weight and then just kind of call it. Or really, like, I would just kind of like test the waters and just kind of see like how far I could go and whatever. So like, yeah. Um, so I think on average I would go on to do like with whatever weights I would do, I'd be doing like 200 steps, and I would probably stop at that every time. So it got to a point where I was doing like 300 pounds, and man, did that become really challenging to do a farmer's walk with 300 pounds. Because I would just be carrying this really just barbell at this point, because none of the other things would work. So I'm just carrying this barbell just back and forth within this very small room, and at some point walking backwards and some points walking forwards, to just keep these steps going. And eventually, yeah, like I somehow was able to farmers carry 300 pounds, but man, did it start to get more and more difficult. Um, but on average, like for all of these exercises, it got to a point where I was lifting 300 pounds on basically everything. If it was to have gone on and been bent over barbell rows, 300, 320, 310, I think was roughly where I was towards the tail end of that all. But then again, probably going and doing a leg curl was probably not 300 pounds. It was probably more like about 150, somewhere in there. Probably more like 135, 140. T-bar squats probably maxed out at 290 because I couldn't do anything more than that. Suitcase deadlifts eventually were like only 180, and I couldn't do more than that. I just couldn't do more. But hey, 180 in one hand is pretty dang good. Yeah, so the cardio and the kind of the regular lifting out a day was to eventually kind of be the regular. So eventually I just kind of consistently kept doing that and would eventually start to fast. So I eventually got all the way down to 216 pounds. But eventually what they don't go on and they tell you is at some point when you're to start losing more and more weight, at some point you do actually feel sick. Especially also when you're to get to one meal a day, you're actually starting to feel sick. And so it honestly got to a point where when I was to get down to one meal a day, I started to feel sick. And then I was like, okay, like, is it my workouts? Like, what's going on? Like, I just feel sick every single day. And so, like, I tried to rationalize it out to just be like, well, maybe I should just eat more. And so it got to where I went back to eating 2 meals a day for probably a month, maybe more than that, to just kind of have this work in my system, and realized that it might have been just dieting fatigue or exercise fatigue or whatever. Um, and so like I don't think really during that time I really gained like a lot of weight. Um, because whatever I gained from those 2 meals, I figured out in my workouts just how to work it off. So it just eventually just kind of balanced itself out. So eventually having me probably have no real urge to go right back into working out because I've kind of just stayed at a certain weight no matter what I do right now. Um, but yet I still want to get back to that goal of 200, of completely having 100 pounds of weight loss. So really all the stuff that I'm going on and talking about will not all work for everybody, but it might work for some. Um, but again, it's all experimenting and to see what best works for you, or what eventually will um, be a thing that you could lose weight faster. Don't slam all this stuff all at one time because it's not all going to work. Um, I had also at certain points gone on to uh, look into supplements rather than just going on and just going into dieting and whatever alone. Like when I first initially started to work out, like I started to realize that creatine is to have been a legitimate steroid-ish like thing. That is to not actually be a steroid. It's creatine, like it's a natural steroid that you can go on and you could take, and it's easy for you to get anywhere, even at a Walmart. So, and that was the first real supplement I took, and it's again, it's not a steroid, but it's a supplement. So I started taking creatine, and that's probably why I got all the thick gains that I did. Not natty, whatever. Um, but eventually, I think when I go back into working out again, I'm going to go in with supplements. I have some whey protein. I have some creatine tablets that I'll be taking up to a certain point uh, to just kind of try and test the waters of taking supplements, because I probably would have at some point touted how like I'm going on and getting the gains I am, or I'm doing all the weight loss that I'm doing without supplements. But now I think when I go back into working out, I'm going to try supplements, because some people don't even know anything at all about supplements, or uh, like really like what is the best supplement to take. Just test the waters. Just try a supplement, and if it doesn't work, if it doesn't um, make you feel all rumbly and tumbly in your stomach, then go on and go through Amazon's, go through uh, online things, online stores, CVV or whatever, the pharmacy store that you have. Check out what they have compared to other places. Go on and just kind of test the waters of what supplement will best work for you. And also, there's a lot of people that are into being fitness influencers that already have their own kind of supplements that are to supposedly work for them, like Gorilla Mind, or uh, probably any number of things of which that I am to probably have quickly forgotten, because heaven forbid I really care what they're all taking. I'm just going on and to have found at a Walmart a couple of different things to just try as far as supplement wise is concerned, because they were probably cheap and something to do. But anyways, so yeah, so if anything, my real true story here is you can also get to a point where you can just kind of maintain. Like if you're going on and if you have a slippery slope of stopping your diet and then you eat 3 meals a day and you gain all the weight back, that's on you. But also, I can get to a point where, for me, because of how my body just works, like at some point, like I feel that I can go on and just eat a lot of food, but then still like at some point not gain any weight. Or there's certain times where uh, I will go on and eat a big meal and realize, oh man, I gained like 5 pounds. Man, does that suck? But then also, I'm going to turn around the very next day and figure out, like, okay, like diet wise, this and that, like, how can I go on and not have that 5 pound meal affect um, me gaining all this weight back? And so that is where you all have to strategize eventually if you're going to go into this and try it. Like, you have to strategize and realize that, like, if you're gonna have Thanksgiving, maybe you should go on and lose a lot of weight prior to that, because that's what I did. Like, I went on to state in a post, I'm like, you know what, I want to go on and I want to get to 220 pounds by Thanksgiving, because shortly thereafter that, like when I was to get into Thanksgiving, I'm like, I don't want to go on and need to look at my Thanksgiving table and have to really think of picking and choosing exactly what I'm gonna have to go on and eat, because I'm already happy getting to 220 pounds, to not have to look at this entire table and just being like, oh yeah, maybe I should go on and just have a little bit of this or a little bit of that. Which, in all honesty, just because of how I was regimented and how I was to have just gone on and just consistently been able to eat as much as I had gone on and done, I only had like that whole entire day. I only had one plate of just Thanksgiving and maybe a dessert, and that was enough for me. I didn't need to get more than that, because really, like, I was just so regimented and eating so much, eating so little. So really, you just have to get into that pattern of eating less. It won't take a day. It won't take a week. It'll probably take a month. Um, but then eventually, once you start to work in that consistently eating less thing, eventually you'll start to lose weight, and then you'll start to realize that you just need to be active more. You just need to work out more, even though your time in life will not let you do so. Like, of which me going on and doing YouTube videos instead of actually going on and uh, and working out right here the second of recording. But eventually, when I roll back into all this, I hope to probably every other day be working out and then having YouTube videos. So there is possibly that. Um, but anyways, I think it's about that time to just call this a video, because I've already been talking for an hour about all of this. And probably a lot of people would have been like, you know what, you could have summed all this down in 10 minutes. I don't really care. Again, why do we have to care about length of video? Because that's all anybody cares about. That's all really anybody will listen to, and whatever. But anyways, I think I'm just going to put this video out. Maybe. I'll just second question everything that is going on in my life, because that's what I always do. Hence why I've been so stymied about putting videos out, just because, like, really, like, I really want to go on and put the best thing out, but really the best thing really doesn't exist anymore, because I've gone on and done so many other projects that had gone and done well. To the point of me looking at them now and just being like, man, if only I would have had that all just mass combined together from the start and just been like bam, 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 bam. But even that, like, that doesn't mean you're going to turn around and eventually get momentum and whatever. But eventually I will learn a bunch of stuff along the way. But so anyways, I'm going to just get out of here and call this a video. So I hope to go on and probably get out a review, but really also been looking at the time of which that I probably have stated this numerous times that I want to do 2 videos a day or whatever. It won't happen. Because eventually I'll go on and have to do other things, or eventually just be busy. So that's it. I'm going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.